And here we are, everybody. Fantasy Author's Handbook. I'm Phil. You can't see me. We're doing table configuration today for the June book haul. As you can see on this post-it note, June books bought. So these are books that I either bought or arrived after having been ordered, like this Perry Rhodan book, sometime in the month of June 2024. So here we go. First off, this is adding to my collection. I am working on actually getting the entire Perry Rhodan series. I'm super close. I'm like crazy close to getting this all done. These books are not like spectacularly rare. They're not super expensive, right? They're not like terrific in terms of just like the quality of the writing and or the quality of the translations. And I think the translations in the early books, at least, they supposedly, I've heard that they get better. The translations in the early books are clunky a little bit, but I don't know. I mean, I'm not even going to try to justify this, rationalize this. I know I don't have to. I just think they're cool. I just like the whole idea of this giant series. This is number 22, one of the ones I was missing. Kurt Marr, The Fleet of the Springers. The science fiction sensation of Europe, 100 million copies sold in Germany, which is the home of Perry Rhodan. This one looks like the first printing because they usually have kind of a banner going across the bottom right corner of the cover for later printings. But yeah, this looks like first Ace printing, March 1973. These were really sort of brought to America by Forrest J. Ackerman and translated by Wendane Ackerman, who I understand was his wife. I might be wrong about that. If I am wrong, I will add context in a title below. But anyway, series and characters created and directed by Carl Herbert Scheer and Walter Ernsting. Just sci-fi action adventure from the 60s. You know, these American editions or English editions were lagging behind several years, but I don't know, man. You either get it or you don't, and if you don't, I get it. But you don't, it's okay. Perry Rhodan. So this arrived to me in June or in early June after I ordered it, a few weeks before, I think. And then because of stuff, I had this vacation coming up. There's some, like home repair stuff that we need to get sorted out, et cetera, et cetera. I thought I need to pause the buy a book every week. Need to pause the whole, just like buying crazy amounts of books, which sometimes I will buy large quantities of books in any given month. And so it's like, this is what I'm giving up in order to kind of get through whatever this little period is. And it's not a crisis or anything like that, but, just kind of sometimes you need to shift your priorities in a sort of real life situation. So this was it. This was going to be it. Pardon me. That didn't last long. So on a trip to the library, shockingly early in the month of June, in which I had told myself I wasn't going to buy books, there appeared in which is always there in my local library, right at the front, shelves with usually not very much there, kind of a lot of usual suspect stuff. You'll see sort of like all of the kind of, bestseller franchise thriller hardcovers are there and people have dumped, they get printed by the bazillion and etc. Right? Lots of children's books and other sort of things. But I always check, because you always have to check. The prices are crazy low. $1 for adult hardcovers, $2 for adult hardcovers. Did I say paperbacks? I said $1 for paperbacks, and $2 for hardcovers. And then in some cases, they have sort of a special price that they put in. Anyway, I found these at the library. A kind of beat up edition. Remember, I buy books that I want to read, not because of the condition or, in spite of the condition, etc. So this is a little bit beat up copy of The Sailor Who Fell from Grace with the Sea by Yukio Mishima, an author I've been hearing about tons and tons. Really recently, like maybe in the last 6 months, a year or so on YouTube. Like he's all over YouTube all of a sudden. Guys like Book Pilled and other people are either catching on or finally talking about him. Really quite a character, this Yukio Mishima guy. It became this kind of like ultra conservative, and conservative in the Japanese sense, right? With a really seems to be getting into the whole Bushido thing. I'm not even sure, right? I'm not going to try to put myself forward as some sort of Yukio Mishima expert, but, just hearing so much about his writing that, everybody just loved, and I guess it's just like super weird. And I'm also just a fan of Japanese literature. I am a super Murakami fan, etc. And so this was on my Amazon wish list, which is sort of anytime I hear of a book that's like, oh, that sounds interesting, I'll put it on that list. So I'm at the library, I see this, and I was like, oh, wait. I looked up my list, it was on there, I deleted it from my list, and I bought it from the library for $1. Which, by the way, supports the Friends of the Library, which you want to do. Be a friend of your library and support the other friends of the library. Yes, because it's the right thing to do. So here we go. The Sailor Who Fell from Grace with the Sea, in definitely read condition, and you've probably already noticed the thing in there. One of the things that I love about used books is the stuff that you find in there, which also sometimes at least tends to kind of indicate where somebody left off. Right? So who was the last person to read The Sailor Who Fell from Grace with the Sea by Yukio Mishima and got to about somewhere between page 66 and 67. And then in here is the National Center for the Performing Arts, a primetime production. Kanyadan, English play, Sunday, October 28, 2007 at 6:30 p.m. at the Tata Theater. Which in Japanese I'm sure means something other than what it means here. But now I just have this. The stuff I have found in used books, sometimes really just obvious, like a bookmark from whatever bookstore it was purchased in and so on. Sometimes just this kind of groovy ephemera that says, this person reading this book went to this play in 2007. And you know what I do with that? There it goes. Sometimes I'll pull them out and I'll use them as bookmarks, right? And a lot of times I leave them exactly where they are. And that's, again, if you're one of those collectors, and you're looking for a first edition, this is a vintage classics edition. I doubt that it is anyway a first edition of the English translation. There's an awful lot going on here, right? Published by Vintage in 2000. This is the 6th printing, and you see those numbers there, right? This is the print key or printer's key. And you always see this sort of either usually counting down, right? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, or sometimes it has the 10 in the middle and then it kind of goes to the 10. The lowest visible number is the printing of this book, right? So the lowest number here is 6. This is the 6th printing. Yes. Copyright by Knopf Incorporated in 1965. Copyright renewed, right? So this is the 6th printing of just this edition. So again, this is not some kind of crazy, it wasn't like, oh, Phil, you paid $1 for this book that's worth like $300. It's not, right? It's not in good shape. But it's certainly readable. It's all there and stuff. Yeah. The Sailor Who Fell from Grace with the Sea, Yukio Mishima, was on my Amazon list, and I was going to buy it brand new, but I got it for $1 and supported the library instead. Speaking of things on my list was The Subversive Copy Editor, Advice from Chicago. That's the Chicago Manual of Style, right? The University of Chicago Press, Carol Fisher Saller. This was on my wish list on Amazon as well because I am, though I have been a professional editor for a really long time, I'm always looking to get better at that, right? You are never the world's foremost expert. Let me say that again. No one is ever the world's foremost expert on anything. There is always something to be learned. Always. Yes. So even somebody like me who's been doing this for a super crazy long time, on a professional level, I know for sure, without even having read it, that there's stuff in here for me to learn. And even then, right, worst case scenario, which I don't think is actually going to happen, good reminders of stuff that I already know and should really be keeping in mind, right? So the Subversive Copy Editor was on my Amazon wish list. I was going to buy this for my own professional development. I found it at the library for $1. It's, sometimes you and the world meet in the strangest of places. Actually, that's not that strange. It's a book. It was in the book sale at the library, which is where books go. You know what? Can I say that I'm a T.S. Eliot fan? What's it mean in America in 2024 to be a T.S. Eliot fan? I admire the poetry of T.S. Eliot. This is a play and not a poem by T.S. Eliot, but this is the kind of thing, right? You saw me where I talked about reading the 6 plays of Clifford Odets that I also found at the library. I read plays. Saw this and it's like, for $1, how do you just say no to that? You don't say no to that, right? Faber paper-covered editions. Nice old book. Mike somebody. Day 9 met her? September 1st, 1978. Day I met her. Okay. Right? This is why used books are better than new ones. I know I shouldn't say that, right? Because new books are paying the author full royalties, and as somebody who earns royalties on books, I understand how important that is. I get it, right? And I do buy new books. Obviously, you're only going to see used books here today because I wasn't supposed to be spending any money at all in June on books. But anyway, this is Mike Mullins, maybe? September 1st, 78. Day I met her. Wow. So, there's already, I hate to use that kind of now just an overused goofy word, vibe, but now there's a vibe to this that goes beyond just, here's a play called The Confidential Clerk by T.S. Eliot. Back cover is just a continued list from the inside. Cover of other Faber paper-covered editions. UK edition from some time ago. Whoever this person was wrote in it in 1978, so it's definitely no newer than that. Wow. Could not pass that up for $1. Ooh, and this one I'm excited about. This one I'm gonna hold on to so that it doesn't get sort of lost on my shelves and I read this soon. So I live in the Seattle area, which thanks to the big tech companies that are here and all of these, high-paid used to be high-paid tech jobs. The diversity in this city and around the city in the entire Puget Sound region or Western Washington is amazing. People have come here, and these are smart, educated people, have come here from all over the world, and they have brought books with them, right? And it's just fantastic. This is something that I did not know I needed in my life, but I needed in my life, right? Mumbai Stan, 3 explosive crime thrillers by Piyush Jha. Am I saying that right? Probably not, and I'm sorry, because I want to say the author's name right every single time. These are crime novels from India. Look at that, where they kind of, I got to peg them on this one, right? They've definitely knifed the hard case crime kind of trade dress there. Crime thrillers. Mumbai, a city of dreams for many, but for others a nightmare. Behind the facade of luster and glamour churns a seething underbelly of squalor, corruption, and crimes. I'm just 100% in on this. I did not know that such a thing existed, but why the hell would it not, right? Published by, and this is, obviously sold in India, right? So somebody, and the Indian American and Indian, immigrant community in the Seattle area is massive. Massive. Most of my neighborhood, for instance, right? So somebody bought this in India, brought it here, read it, I hope, loved it. This is from 2012, right? Printed in India. Yeah. I mean, this was not something that was bought in the local Barnes & Noble. This came with someone from the subcontinent. And I cannot flip and wait. I have never read a sort of popular novel, what you would call, or a genre novel from India. And I cannot wait to read this. Seriously, I'm just probably more excited about this than anything else. Mumbai Stan, yeah, with the price in rupees, it's just perfect. Thank you, whoever donated this to the library so that I could pay $1 for it and enter a part of the world, right, and this great ancient culture, but in this completely contemporary way. Oh, my goodness. Phil's all excited now. I'm kind of Jules Birding these over to the side here. And he's a verb now. Jules Bert's a verb now. Because I'm serious, I'm going to hold this aside. I want to read this really soon. Another author I should have been reading all along, should have read a long time ago, found this there. Brown Girl in the Ring by Nalo Hopkinson. Terrific, right? Looks really great shape, and why the hell not? Have heard nothing but great things. And again, it's the guilt of not having read her already. And then, right, we flip through these used books, and oh yeah, somebody close read this. Now, for a lot of collectors, this would be a no, right? Oh no, someone has defaced the book, and I don't want to read over somebody's notes. I cannot wait to read over this person's notes, who I don't know. Who maybe lives right down the street, who could maybe live next door to me. I don't even know. But it's throughout. Like whoever this person is was really reading this book. They're not the only ones using Obeya. Rudy knows. Spoiler alert. Terrific. I'm absolutely going to read this. I am absolutely going to interact, right, in my own head with whoever annotated this. Do I agree? Do I disagree? Do I have to puzzle over why certain, portions of sentences or sentences are underlined? I don't know. But this to me is a feature. That's a feature. That's not a bug in this book that I should have read a long time ago anyway. Yeah? Brown Girl in the Ring. This one just kind of looked like fun. I don't know anything about it. This is somewhat less exotic than, the book from India or Yukio Mishima. This is published by Harper, right? U.S. edition. Big American publisher. Tom Harper. Zodiac Station, a novel. If anyone deserves the sobriquet of the thinking person's Dan Brown, that's Tom Harper. Well, I'm a thinking person. I didn't love the Da Vinci Code. So, okay. Right? It's deep in the Arctic. The U.S. Coast Guard icebreaker Terra Nova batters its way through the frozen sea. All right. I mean, right there, I'm good. Harper is a master storyteller, says Peter James. I don't know, and right for $1. This was $1. What's the worst that can happen? I start reading it and I'm like, nah, I don't know. I guess I don't. I think it looks interesting, right? What do we got? Murder and problems and sabotage, suspicion and paranoia. The mystery only deepens in the Arctic. Terrific, right? It's the thing without the thing in it. Right, I guess. Willa Cather, O Pioneers. I've spoken before, right? Because I know you watch every single video and you hang on every word and you're taking notes. That I love these Dover Thrift editions, which are just so perfectly cheap and perfect and just present in this very no frills but highly readable, very clean way. And so I saw this one. I've heard of this book, obviously. I haven't really read any Willa Cather. I am a little bit behind, we'll say woefully behind, in some of my like kind of older or classic literary fiction-ish kind of stuff, right? Non-genre fiction. Am I going to like this? Is this just going to be like, okay, like I get it. Set on the Nebraska prairie where Willa Cather lived, 1873 to 1947, grew up. This powerful early novel tells the story of the young Alexandra Bergson, my daughter's name is Alexandra, whose dying father, you know what? What did Willa Cather hear? Who's dying? Leaves her in charge of the family and of the lands they have struggled to farm. Okay, so, prairie life in Nebraska. I'm a Midwesterner, or I used to be. Oh, pioneers. Why have I not? I've read other things by Elie Wiesel. Why have I not read this? This is another one that is just kind of like, the hell have I been? The hell have I been? What can I say about this book, right, that hasn't already been said by the Nobel laureate Elie Wiesel? Night. I will read this. And a terrific Hill and Weighing, a division of Farrar, Straus, and Giroux. Terrific, right? Very nice, super readable, trade paperback format. And last from this visit to the library, this one was just fun. And see, this is where you sometimes say it says 1955 vintage, and yet $1? Right? When I would have paid $2 for it, I don't know. But now I have that little price tag to go with it. The Wizard of Oz. Right. Junior Deluxe Editions. This is library bound with this great printed end papers. The binding is split there. That is fixable. I can fix that. That will be fixed by me. Right? But this is clearly coming from the publisher where they're sort of, like little fun drawings that kind of tell you about some of the other, books for kids that they've published. Here's something you don't see anymore in a children's book. But, 1955 was a whole other universe, y'all. This is called The New Wizard of Oz. What does that mean, I wonder? And I bumped the tripod and I apologize. But I should have done maybe a little bit of research on this one because this isn't The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. This is The New Wizard of Oz. Is this down the series a little? Or is this maybe for even younger readers? Junior Deluxe Edition, Garden City, New York. Maybe was this revised a little bit? Maybe kind of aged down a smidge? What makes it The New Wizard of Oz? It's got all the historical stuff there, copyrights. This book is dedicated to my good friend and comrade, my wife. Chicago, April 1900, L. Frank Baum. It seems to be the, the The Cowardly Lion was much pleased to hear that the Wicked Witch had been melted by a bucket of water, and Dorothy at once unlocked the gate of his prison and set him free. I have never read The Wizard of Oz, and I need to, and I'm going to, in whatever form this is. I don't understand it exactly, why it has a different title, why it's called the New Wizard of Oz. But I'm going to try to check that out and see what happens. But look at also, I mean, come on, look at the gorgeous color illustration. Dorothy and Toto and the fellas, and then some, black and white line art inside. The Wizard of Oz, just in this really cute as a button little dirty red owned, passed down from child to child since 1955, and that was what I found in the library that day. Should I just press on? Because remember, in June of 2024, I wasn't going to buy any books because I got to do other stuff. And so here's the next trip to the library. No, this wasn't a trip to the library. It wasn't me. I blame my wife, who said, I want to go to, I don't know what she wanted to get. And we can go out for lunch and we'll go over to this mall that has a half-price books in it. So, like, I'm going to go there and not go into the half-price books. And once I'm inside the half-price books, because I'm going to go inside the half-price books, I'm not going to buy anything from the half-price books. Of course, I bought stuff from the and so when you promise yourself sometimes that you're not going to buy books this month, you buy books anyway. Look what I found. The Time Tunnel. In one of the big boxes of, which you've seen those videos, because you've seen all of my videos, because you love me and we love each other, and it's all, I got Time Tunnel number 2, and also you have seen me talk about, and on the blog talk about in detail, the Murray Leinster novelization, of Land of the Giants. This was a show that came, I think, before Land of the Giants, right around exactly the same time. ABC TV's newest science fiction thriller, Sticker Damage. Now a fast action novel. Lots of sticker. That was tape. Somebody put tape there and stuff bled through. I think somebody put some kind of water or solvent to try to get that off. That was a mistake. Another sticker, just so book in cover in particular, just in like beat up shape, but who cares, because it's doomed. I mean, the book itself is doomed. We're all doomed, I tell you. So Time Tunnel, the premise was pretty easy. There's this time machine called the Time Tunnel. It's like this big sort of psychedelic rotating thing, and then these like secret agent type guys would go back in time to solve these certain mysteries or set something right. The Time Tunnel was the most important and most secret weapon ever developed. Like ever, right? Scientists Tony Newman and Doug Phillips, very much like 1960s TV character names, knew that the destiny of the world depended on it. Now the tunnel was threatened with destruction, and the only way Doug and Tony could save it was to take a blind leap into the whirling mists of time. So having read that impossibly bizarre Land of the Giants novelization for the pilot episode, which then obviously Murray Leinster just kind of took the premise and ran with, I cannot wait to see exactly how far afield he goes with the Time Tunnel. This is book 1. I already had book 2 that came in sort of a big box of random paperbacks. This is how Phil's brain works, by the way. If I happen upon a book 2, then I'm going to go get book 1. I'm just going to go get book 1. I'm going to go get book 1. For instance, I should have brought it down upstairs. I have the sequel to this book, the Star Trek novel by A.C. Crispin, Yesterday's Sun. I didn't have Yesterday's Sun. I found it at Half Price Books. I paid like very, very little actual dollars for it. But now I have both of those. I have Yesterday's Sun and the sequel. It's important to have that, by the way. It's important to have the book and the sequel and, oh, what is it? For your information, thank you for flying Delta. Terrific. I'm flying out on Delta on Sunday. Today is Monday, and I'm headed out to Vegas. This was for, looks like 28 February it looks like FEB3, right? Or is that FE for February 83? This looks like probably 83, right? It feels very dot matrix printery. Definitely old school boarding pass, as opposed to scanning the Delta SkyMiles app on your phone on the way into the plane, right? So what is this, right? L. Whitaker, who was flying between Denver and Atlanta, only got to page 96 and was like, yeah, listen, I got about halfway through and I can't anymore. Right? Got to Atlanta and what happened, right? There's more. How did this get from Atlanta to Seattle? Maine Southwest. Oh, here we go. Here's an adult movie ticket to single white female on Monday, August 24th of 1992. Right? So L. Whitaker made it to, this is phenomenal. This is why you must keep tuning into my book hauls, y'all. So L. Whitaker in, I believe, 83 got to page 96. And then the unknown person who paid to see single white female, I'm not judging. I'm not judging. And look at that. You could go to the movies for $6 in 1992 at Mann Southwest Theater in somewhere in America. I have no idea where. Either Denver or Atlanta, maybe. Who knows? Only got to page 38. Is this a bad sign? Because you have to be a Star Trek fan even to buy this book, right? But listen, maybe they read the whole thing, loved it, and just sort of stuck their bookmark back in the middle and then off to wherever it went, and it ended up at Half Price Books in Bellevue, Washington. I don't know. But this was the old Timescape. There was Star Trek novels were in the sort of pocketbooks Timescape kind of sub-imprint. Back for a very short period of time. This has the groovy silver foil. Not literally silver, but you know what I mean. Foil. Title there. Pretty groovy. Spock is there. What else do you need? You know? Star Trek. Yesterday's Sun. A.C. Crispin. With old bookmarks. This one was stuck into a little bag here. Look at this one that I found. I'm not a huge Western fan. I have where I'm sitting and my foot is there, and if I hit the thing, I'm sorry. And then you can see the wire. This is just bad filmmaking. You heard that right. I tucked the little wire underneath my microphone. I'm going to take this out of the bag because glare is bad enough as it is today. It's sunny and hot in the Seattle area. Will Ermine? Probably Ermine. Will Ermine. Rustler's Bend. Gold was the bait for outlaw guns. Complete and unabridged, and it better dang well be, y'all. Rustler's Bend, a Western by Will Ermine. They closed his mouth in a hurry. Tom Yancey won't identify anybody for us now. Oh, man. What the heck, right? Violence on the open range. This is got a 25-cent cover price, so this is a while ago, everybody, right? Dell, small format, right? This is still really what a American mass market paperback looks like, and so you can see how this was much smaller. A lot of my old beloved Ace books are around that same trim size. So the smaller green sprayed edges, because you just do that. In whatever this was, I'm going to say it's somewhere in the 1950s, Dell Publishing. I'll put it where we can all see it. Copyright 1949 by Doubleday and Company Incorporated, all rights reserved. Could this be from 1949? I think it could be, right? The 25-cent cover price would definitely put us in that territory. That's a pretty dang old book there. How do you, and this is the thing, right? It was not a lot of money. I don't remember how much I spent. It was not more than a couple dollars, maybe $3. Rustler's Bend. It just looks like a hoot from 1949 with the weird little bag where it's kind of in a sleeve. I have bags upstairs that I will bag this because it's old enough that it should probably stay in a bag, but one that's sealed better, right? Rustler's Bend. Never heard of the author, don't care, right? Love it. Have heard and have read this author, James White. This is another one that was in the sort of like, it's really, really cheap because it's beat up pile. And I was like, well, I don't mind beat up books. I like James White. And I also like undersea science fiction. We've talked about that here too. But this one I've actually heard of. This one, I don't know that it was on my wish list necessarily, but I knew of this book and I'm like, why haven't I read this book yet? This came from Huckleberry Books in Nanaimo, BC, British Columbia. That's not actually that far from here. Much closer than Atlanta. So these Del Rey books would have been from around the 80s, right? Or this says third printing, 1978, close enough. The book originally copyrighted in 1966. So this goes back right into that period at least. Again, condition, not good. Not good. It is not in good shape. It looks like some gluing has been done on the spine already. You can see there. The covers are lifting away. Some kind of liquid has been introduced to this. You can see that damage there. But the cover is still groovy. You can still see the weird, like, mutated fish guy. They were human, desperate and trapped in the hull of a sunken ship for generations. What? A riveting saga of survival by James White. You know? The watch below. Why not? Who doesn't love Joyce Carol Oates? Don't get me started. Just saw this one here. This was also in the, kind of the blowout section, everything, the clearance section. Remember what I was saying about, did we kind of knife the logo from Hard Case Crime there over in India? Our friends over there in India? You be the judge. I don't care. I'm going to I'm excited about this anyway, but whatever. Hard Case Crime. You almost can't go wrong with Hard Case Crime. They know what they're doing over there. They have a lot to choose from. And then, of course, it's Joyce Carol Oates. Inside the Mind of the Maniac. First publication in 40 years is probably not a great sign. This might be one of those books that she's like, if you make me admit it, I wrote it. But I don't know. I mean, this might be one of my favorite books of all time. And that's the beauty of just buying a book blind, because I've read the author before, obviously. And, like, the cover is just... Okay. Like Hard Case Crime doesn't have that figured out by now. The Triumph of the Spider Monkey. I'm going to come at you like a spider monkey. Unavailable for 40 years, The Triumph of the Spider Monkey is an eloquent, terrifying, heartbreaking exploration of madness by one of the most acclaimed authors of the past century. It pairs the original novel, oh, that's right, with a never-before collected companion novella. Well, that's fun. And this is not long, right? This is not a long book, and it's got nice big type. So this looks like a very short novel, and then also a novella, kind of an accompanying novella at the end. I'm just seeing one title in the heads, so I don't know. But, the only way to find out is to read it, which I will do. Here we go. And then you have to start making decisions when you're at the used bookstore. And you see this. Junkyard Planet by H. Beam Piper. In this super groovy, like library bound edition. This is what library books looked like when I was a little kid. Like I was a little kid. These were bound specially for the library market. With the groovy cover art kind of spaceship on the spine as well. Blank back cover. What more need to be said? And otherwise, the book looks like it is in gorgeous condition. I don't know exactly how old it is. It was first published in... The first 3 chapters are adapted from the author's novelette Graveyard of Dreams, published in Galaxy, February 1958. So it's newer than that. 1963. Yeah. And then it's just this super groovy science fiction novel, Junkyard Planet by H. Beam Piper. I think did I pay $10 for this? I think I paid $10 for this. I tried to get somebody to talk me out of it. My wife was there. She talked me into it. She's like, you're going to regret not buying that, and then I'm going to have to deal with you. I was like, okay, I'll buy it. And you know what? I have no regrets. This is filled with no regrets. Holding in his hand this crazy awesome library bound edition, but not stamped, right? No stamps. This never made it to a library. But this was clearly the library edition. Or, no, this was a library binding for sure, wasn't it? I mean, there might have been a dust jacket on this, but why would they go to this, right? This has got to be for the library market. Just cool. Just a great artifact kind of book to have. Who doesn't love H. Beam Piper anyway? Junkyard Planet. What's not to be in? There's nothing to keep me out of that. And a lot that got me when I'm not supposed to be spending any money on books for a month. It got me to pay like $10-ish. Let's make a little bit of space for this last one from this trip to the used bookstore where I found this. I'm going to need, everybody get out of the way, man, because this book is super big. Large format Frankenstein book, Vault of Frankenstein, 200 years of the world's most famous monster. I keep pushing these books away. It seems disrespectful. Featuring replicas of monster memorabilia. Super cool. $4. Published by Becker and Meyer here in Seattle. Lovely printed end papers. Presentation so far terrific. All good. What are we talking about here? It had to be 2018, and it was, right? That would be 200 years after the original publication of Frankenstein in 1818, which I am reading now, and you will see that on a future video. Right? It's just all about the history of Frankenstein, and then going through, right? There's young Frankenstein. I'm not going to show you the whole book, but you get it, right? Lavishly illustrated in color, going back to the older presentations of Frankenstein and all of his glory. Of course, right? The Universal James Whale movies. Here's the man himself, James Whale. And then just going farther and farther. I loved Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. As a kid, they would play that on TV, and I would just go nuts for it, right? Certainly into the Hammer years. Love those movies, too. Hammer horror movies, by the way, our monster movies are just, you have to love. And, of course, Frankenstein now, having been for a long time in the public domain, anyone could just have fun with it. Do not use this brain. Abnormal. Young Frankenstein, honestly, for me, that's still the funniest movie ever made. Absolutely dynamite movie, right? And again, Frankenstein and all of his sort of iterations and the spin-offs, the things obviously, Edward Scissorhands and other things that were clearly inspired by Frankenstein, right? Characters all over the place. And so here's the thing, $4, I found this book and I was like, I'm 100% going to pay $4 for this, right? Even Frankenstein video games and weird stuff. And then I saw this, and only when I got home and was like, what? Wait. It says contents. The Bride of Frankenstein movie poster, which I would have loved to have. Pages from Mary Shelley's original manuscript of the Frankenstein, or the modern Prometheus, which I would love to have. Photo of Boris Karloff on the set of Universal's Frankenstein. I would have loved to have that. Playbill for Presumption, or The Fate of Frankenstein, the first stage adaptation of Frankenstein, and then the Frankenstein movie poster. And that's empty. Those 5 pieces of group. Oh, wait. I thought it was empty, but it's not. What? It's a Christmas miracle. It is a Christmas miracle. I thought this was empty, but they're actually in here. Why? I was like feeling around in there, and just this white thing here fooled me. You're seeing the moment of discovery. Are you nuts? What the heck? Look at the Mary Shelley manuscript page. I want to compare this to the vintage classic edition that I'm reading right now. Oh, stop the presses. What are we looking at here? Something that's folded. I'm going to be very careful. It's the Bride of Frankenstein movie poster. It's actually here. I was just about to tell you, hey, I was happy to pay $4 just for the book without the ephemera, and I didn't even realize that the ephemera is all here. Those are 2 pieces of the 3. There's the man himself, Boris Karloff, in makeup. Terrific. What are we looking for here then? The playbill, and here it is. Oh, that's cool. Love in a Village, no? With an entirely new last scene, a schooner in a violent storm in which Frankenstein and the monster are destroyed. Spoiler alert. Whatever, but people are like, no, I need to see people destroyed. Oh, that's so cool. I'm going to be 60 in a couple months, and I am a giant nerd who gets nerded out on nerd stuff, and I will never stop if I live to be 1.5 million. I'm going to be careful, right? Exhibitors campaign, look at that. Oh, it's a reproduction of the original, right? Oh, I can't really get it all in here, but that's super cool. I thought it didn't have that in there. I thought that wasn't in there. Oh, my dear Lord. It was in there, and it was all in the proper order even. I'm going to put it back in reverse order. Then the playbill goes in. Oh, careful now, because we don't want to ruin this. This was $4. Oh, my Lord. I was going to say, oh, there's the envelope in the back is empty. You heard me begin to say that. And I don't know what the heck. Did I not believe? Was it a question of belief? I didn't believe that all the ephemera would be in there? I don't know what that is. I just thought it was empty. And I flipped it open and I touched this. And it was just blank white on top. So I just thought, well, it's not in there, but that's okay. It's okay. Because this book is worth $4 anyway, right? But it's all here. Oh my God. Frankenstein. Thank you, whoever ditched this completely intact at the Half Price Books in Bellevue. My gosh. Could this have been a Becker and Meyer employee from Bellevue, Washington? Maybe. This was like, oh, I got my staff copy of all these books and they just fired me, so I'm going to ditch them for whatever I can get. Amazing. $4. I'm in awe of my entire life. I'm going to pause here. I'm a little bit hot. I need to have something to drink. And I think my son is trying to text me. Fault of Frankenstein. All ephemera intact. I will be right back, because the month of not buying any books continues to be a failure in terms of not buying books, but a success in terms of buying books, especially this one, which I already knew was a success. And now I just see it as this gigantic victory. I have won the day. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll be back in a bit. We're back. I moved some things around just to kind of clear the decks here. June 2024, book haul continues, the month that I had promised myself not to buy any books. And then I went to the library again. And the friends of the library got another $5 out of me. Okay. So this is the book that people were talking about for a long time. Cryptonomicon by Neal Stephenson. Look at the size of this flippin' thing, which I have not read because I get scared. I get intimidated by giant long books. Now, as an editor, I've worked on huge books and series that go on. That really are essentially one book that's six, or one story that's 6 books long. I've worked on 350,000 word manuscripts without batting an eye. I do have the attention span for it, right? But for some reason, I just look at these and I don't know, something clicks in my head like, can I afford the time, right, to live the Cryptonomicon lifestyle for as long as it's going to take me to read this book. But now then, I've read really, really long books that I absolutely loved and that are among my favorite books of all time. So in the moment I saw this there, it was $1. It's in pretty good shape. It's just the basic, right, Avon. Mass market, paperback, with the cool spot varnish. When you see this, right, where it's black on black, and then you need to sort of move it around for the light to play over where you see the cross there and the other symbols. That's called spot varnish. That's a varnish that's applied in that space that makes it shiny. And also the embossed, which means that the type is coming up from the bottom, right? Neal Stephenson and Cryptonomicon are embossed. And foil. Now, this is 2 different colors of foil, including this teeny little dotted line there. And then, of course, on the spine, it's all just sort of spot varnished over. A lot of money was spent on the cover of this book. This is extra money for the gold, right? This is extra money for the embossing. Right. This is another batch of extra money for a different color foil. This is money for the spot varnish. So, Avon, I know this book sold a lot, right? It's a New York Times notable book, etc. The Seattle Times liked it. USA Today liked it. Obviously we knew that it was a major book. And so now it's out in mass market paperback, which is really stretching the boundaries of what that format can actually handle at 1,152 pages. It's like there's no reason for me not to read this except that I just get these scaredy cat things about long books I'm getting over, right? If I could make it all the way through War and Peace, a novel that I hated, I've read Neal Stephenson before. I'm ready to actually read this, and I'm happy to read this now, right? And I'm like reading the whole Book of the New Sun series right now as my long read, right? Each of those books aren't long, but I'm reading the sort of, the newer collections. And so I'm considering the really 5 books in that as one book as my long read. This can be my long read, and I'll just march through it while also reading other shorter stuff. $1, yeah, in perfectly swell shape, Cryptonomicon by Neal Stephenson. I read this as a kid in the American edition, which was the red, where Dave is inside of the HAL computer sort of server farm, right? and it's all a red light, and he's kind of looks like he's floating, hanging upside down. This one has just like a painting, right, from the movie, and there's Mr. Clarke himself. This is Arthur C. Clarke. It's on the making of the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey. And again, I read this when I was a kid, loved it, hung on his every word, right? Learned all about the making of it. I remember there being photos in the middle of mine. This is the UK edition. Remember when I said people come here from all over the world to the Seattle area to get paid, $900,000 a year by Microsoft? I think this is why I'm getting all these UK editions all of a sudden. And it may not be so much that people are coming from England, but they might be bringing these from India. Note the question mark at the end of that. But anyway, this is just, I had this as a kid. I read it. I don't know whatever happened to my copy of it. It's gone. I see this sitting there for $1, and I'm not going to buy that again. Who says I can't read that again? When I say I read that as a kid, I mean I read it 50 years ago. So, yeah. That wasn't the only Arthur C. Clarke UK edition that was there of Time and Stars. I've seen this painting before. I've seen it in other contexts with the weeping astronaut as this, ship comes over and is just destroying this beach. Right? Spectacular painting. Again, if I had paused to do a little bit of research, I would have told you who the cover artist is. If I can't find it in here, because they don't always say, I will look that up and you will see it right now. But anyway, just gorgeous. This is a collection of short stories by the great Arthur C. Clarke. Introduction by J.B. Priestley. Right? Some of these I remember I have read in other anthologies over the years. Because I remember I was a Arthur C. Clarke fan like crazy when I was in like junior high. So like a long time ago. The 9 billion Names of God, I'm sure I've read. If I Forget Thee, O Earth, sounds familiar. Who's There? All the Time in the World. Yeah, I mean, like a bunch of these. Security Check, I remember. And The Sentinel for Sure, which is the short story that inspired the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey. And I do love these UK A format paperbacks. They are different, right? Let's take a look at not just because of the crazy length of, Cryptonomicon, but you can see the difference in the trim size. Can you see it? Yeah, that looks like a good, right? They're spine to spine. So you see it's actually a little bit wider and a pretty good amount taller, right? So almost what would look like here in the States a kind of smaller format trade paperback. We don't really have equivalent to this, I don't think. But I've read a bunch of them and they're very comfortable to read. I like these better. I think England makes mass market paperbacks better than we do. There, I said it. I know that sounds counter-revolutionary. Uh-oh. Phil is siding with King George. Arthur C. Clarke, Glide Path. Here's Arthur C. Clarke again, right? And I love what they used, right? This one has that great art all the way around. Wrap art. But here's Arthur again. Like, we're just doing a series of them, obviously, right? The same publisher. These two are published by one publisher, this by another. Glide Path by Arthur C. Clarke. What more needs be said, right? It is a novel by Arthur C. Clarke, which I don't believe I've ever read. I've never read this. And so there it is in this groovy UK edition for $1 that also supports the library. And that noise I made there, that is really just weird. I'm really close to the microphone. I'm dreading what that's going to actually sound like. It just means like, how am I going to pass that up? If I'm not going to buy that, who's going to buy that? Other people like me. Anyway. And then I saw this one because it's a minimum of $5 for the Venmo thing. You scan a little, what do you call those? QR codes. And then I saw this one, Signet Classic Edition of Dr. Faustus by Christopher Marlowe, which obviously, I've known about forever and ever and have not yet read. And I thought, well, who says I'm not going to read that? Right? Not unlike the sort of Dover thrift editions. Oh, Robert. I love this. Used books are spectacular. Robert just put his logo on this one. Terrific. And sometimes I'm just tempted to make one that says Phil exactly like that. But I won't because I don't know, maybe I should. Anyway, again, nothing valuable about this. I paid $1 for it. I think it's worth $1. You'll probably find it other places for 50 cents. I don't know. Nothing collectible about it. It's a little bit beat up. This is just crease on the cover and the broken spine and stuff like that, right? This is not a book that's like, oh, the antiquarians are going to go crazy over this. But I just want to read the book and donate $1 to the Friends of the Library. Dr. Faustus by Christopher Marlowe will do that. So is that it then for all of the books that I bought in the month where I promised I wasn't going to buy any books? Well, no. Actually, because, of course I went to the library again. I mean, it's not like I go to the library once a month. Clearly, as you can see, I went to the library 3 times in the month of June, which I think is pretty good, right? A little less than once a week. Why not? So, anyway, here's what I found on that trip to the library. Again, adult paperbacks are $1, hardcovers are $2. So for $1, I got this pretty boring edition of Canticles for Leibowitz, and the whole time I'm like, I bought that. I have that. I know I have that. I know I found that. That's been on my why haven't I read. It's another one of those, right? Why haven't I read this? Where the hell have I been? Science fiction classics. And I don't know, something made me just say, I know, just get it, right? And then I got home and I do have an earlier paperback edition of this that's actually way cooler. I mean, no disrespect to the care and love put into this cover design. And this is obviously a much, much newer, much, much updated, what do we got? Bantam books. The library sometimes put these little blue dots on them. They come right off, which is nice. Terrific. Now what do I do with that? Right, they're always there's little blue dots all over. Canticle for Leibowitz, by now, right? Kind of one of these great post-apocalyptic sci-fi things. Again, something I feel like I should have read ages and ages and years ago, but have not. Bantam Mass Market Reissue, April 2007. Again, so this book is not old or anything like that, right? There's nothing collectible or special about it necessarily. I mean, no disrespect meant. But since I have it already in what I believe to be a cooler, older, more vintage edition, I'm going to keep that. This is going to go to the park next time I'm at the park. And I have a couple of 3 other books that have kind of it's not worth selling on eBay. I don't think this is going to be something that is going to fetch enough money to make eBay worth anyone's effort. Again, this is not something that's you never find that, right? So this is just going to get donated back to the little free library in the park, right? Those little fun houses. Maybe you'll even see on a future video me walking to the park. It's just too hot. No, I'm not going today. There's a little mini heat wave here in the Seattle area right now. But I will bring this and leave this at the little free library in the park, very close to my house. So I'm going to put that over here separate so I don't forget to put that with the other little free library books. And I think I'm going to leave this blue dot here and see how long it takes either my wife or one of my 2 kids to notice it's there. David Brin, and why not? Glory Season. This is another good-sized book here. It's really chunky, and you can tell they're using that much thinner paper, and they are because it's heavy as can be. So there's more pages in here than it might seem to be. What are we capping out at 772? It's a rousing adventure story, brimming with surprises both wonderful and harrowing, says the San Diego Union Tribune. Right? From Hugo and Nebula Award-winning author of Otherness, David Brin. If you're on LinkedIn, right, you got David Brin is all over LinkedIn arguing with Trump supporters, and I wish he would stop doing that and use all of that time to write more books, because what are you arguing online with people? I don't. What does that do for any of us? I love this, right? And coming in September 1995 in hardcover, Brightness Reef. I'll be looking for that. I have it upstairs. I have it on a shelf upstairs in my office area. So this is copyright 1993. Cover art copyright 1994 by Gary Rudell. The hardcover edition was June 1993. This one, June 1994. This is the fourth printing. Remember, right? This would have said 1, 2, 3, right? Those have all been taken away, and so this is the fourth printing. So sometime after the year 1994, which it looks 1994, yeah, it looks mid-90s, where, you know, a lot of his books were coming out in paperback in mass market with this trade dress here with his name on at the edge of the left edge of the front cover. It's David Brin. It's science fiction. What more do I need from that, right? I know the author. Yeah, it's long, but remember we talked about with Cryptonomicon, I'm deciding not to be intimidated by long books and just be reading a long book as long as it takes me to read it, while I'm also reading a bunch of other stuff. And I'm always reading, and you know, if you've watched all of my videos, because you have always, all of you have watched all of my videos. Then you will know that I read 5 books at a time. Obviously simultaneously. So this will get worked in. Well, you know what? Actually, because in all of the mass market paperbacks, including Faustus, will go into the giant random to be read paperback stacks, right? And you will see that Cryptonomicon will go in there, even as long as it is. And you will go back and watch those videos. The first one, I think, is still like the most popular video I've done, where I go through more than 400 of the more than 400 books in that random paperback grab bag thing. Yeah. Anyway, next one. It's Dan Simmons. So we've got Neal Stephenson. David Brin wrote a long book there too. And then we're at Dan Simmons' Hyperion. Now, this was another one that was on my list of things to buy, and also on my list of why haven't you read that already books. Like, Phil, where have you been? Right? Like, I'm only now just reading the Book of the New Sun and absolutely adoring every weird, insane word choice in there. I love it already. I'm not even done with the second of the 5 books yet. This is one of those that people talk about, and they talk about, and they talk about, and they talk about. So again, where the hell have I been? This is another UK edition brought over here by someone somehow. I don't see anything stuck in here. We don't have a plane ticket coming from, Heathrow or anything like that. Cover's cool, right? A lot of embossing going on. Really, really neat. Headline feature. Science fiction. I've never heard of that publisher. I wonder if they're even still around, or maybe they are. Headline Book Publishing in London. All right. It's the third printing. 1989. Why have I not read this yet? It doesn't matter. I will. I now have it. It was on my Amazon wish list. I deleted it from there because now I have it in reality. It goes into the giant TBR stack. It will be read at random. I never buy a book I don't intend to read, and I definitely intended to read this one. There it goes. All right, we're getting there. Because remember, this month was the month where I wasn't going to buy any books because of all the other things that were going on. And these little blue stickers. There's another one. I can make a little smiley face out of them. Night Father by Carrie Friedman. I just jumped out at me. It's from the local high school library. And it's old enough that it still has a different city in the address. Night Father is a novel about the Holocaust like no other. Written in a deeply affecting style, mixing lightness with gravity, it captures not only the experience of the concentration camp, but also its powerful legacy, passed down to a new generation through the enormous bond of love that ties parent and child. That's a hefty sentence there for your flat copy. Right away, all of a sudden, really not loving the choice of a sans serif font. That was not a professional move. Do we forgive them? We must. We must forgive. I'm struggling to be able to see the name of the publisher, but I don't know. It struck me as really fascinating. Night Father. Why a sans serif font for body text of a novel? I don't know why, but there it is. And it's not going to prevent me from reading this. Sometimes when you go to these used bookstores, library sales, things just sort of appear in front of you and you go like, okay. And that's what I did with Night Father. I said, okay, terrific. Likewise with the Tea House Fire, a novel by Ellis Avery. It just looked interesting to me. Look at again, we talked about spot varnish. Look at those little red dots there going, ooh, like they're blinking. The story of two women whose lives intersect in late 19th century Japan. It's a place and time that I find really interesting. I don't really know that I read enough historical fiction, whatever that means. What's enough? Like what percentage of my reading should be historical fiction? I don't have that set, and I'm not going to set that. But again, another one that it looked interesting to me. Like, why would I not spend $1 on this and see what happens? It's not going to hurt me, right? A monster isn't going to jump out and get me. What if it's really like one of my favorite books of all time? That's how I approach that library book sale, used bookstores. Oh, I've never heard of that. I wonder how awesome it is. Not, I've never heard of that. It must be stupid. It's all about the attitude, people. You got to get your attitude straight. Here's a book that used to be, right? Or at some point was one of those books that everybody talked about. This is the Bermuda Triangle of my table. A #1 New York Times bestseller. That doesn't necessarily mean anything because, let's be honest, right? A giant readership doesn't necessarily connect to the quality of the writing any more than whatever the #1 single on the pop charts, right, equates to the quality of the music or whatever. Sometimes you're in the right place with the right thing, and it grabs people, right? I think I've heard better things about The Memory Keeper's Daughter by Kim Edwards than that, right? So this is not me saying, like, I bought this book that I know to be trash. Jodi Picoult loves it, right? Washington Post dug it. The Chicago Tribune. I kind of flipped through this. Was this somebody's book club, right? This is definitely one of those book club books. Oh, we got a little bit of a... I'm going to imagine that that's blood. Somebody bled on this copy of The Memory Keeper's Daughter. It's one of those where it feels like I should have read it. I do suffer from a small, it starts in 1964, the year of my birth. That's a sign. That's a sign. That's proof of the metaphysical. You were here first, right? I mean, obviously, something is happening. The angels have smiled upon me today. Just from all that stuff being inside that envelope at the back of that Frankenstein book, which I didn't think I had, and now I have it, and I'm very excited, and I'm like going to cry. Anyway, I don't know what I need to say about The Memory Keeper's Daughter, the massive bestseller by Kim Edwards from, it seems like not too long ago, but when you get to a certain age, what seems like, that was just like from last week, right? It could have been coming up on 20 years, 2005. This is the 12th. Oh, I'm sorry, not the 12th printing. This is the 22nd printing, which is a lot, y'all. That's a lot. And then, it was the number one New York Times bestseller, which does mean that it sold like a lot of books, right? I don't know, right? I now have a copy of The Memory Keeper's Daughter by Kim Edwards. There's no reason for me not to read it, of course. I mean, it sounds interesting, and let's find out what all of the hullabaloo from 19 years ago was all about. So, anyway, this is the month where I'm not going to buy any books because I got the trip to Vegas coming up, because I love Vegas. I go to Vegas when I get a chance. Try to go every 7 months these days, actually. And then I got all these other ones over here. Oh, Lord in heaven, there's too many books. There's a million of them. Do you want to count these up to see how many books that I actually bought during the month of not buying any books? This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, and Canticle for Leibowitz makes 28. So when I said I wasn't going to buy any books at all in the 30-day month of June of 2024, what I meant was that for 2 of those days I wasn't going to buy any books, but I'm going to average at least 1 book a day for the other 28 days. Is it an addiction? I don't think it's an addiction, because addiction, it implies that it's bad for you. And buying books is not bad for you. That's all for today. God help us all. I can't stop buying books. And I can't stop not feeling bad about it. This has been Phil. This has been Fantasy Author's Handbook. This has been all the books that I wasn't supposed to buy in June of 2024. See you again soon.